Bring to your attention is Amy Wassinger has earned her national board certification. She's third grade teacher at O'Laughlin. We want to congratulate her. It takes a lot of dedication, time, and effort to achieve that great honor, and we just want to express our gratitude for all the hard work and appreciate everything you do. So, next, yep. You want to give a speech? And her picture will go on the wall here sometime when we get that taken care of. So, congratulations again. The next, the Hayes Middle School Student Council give back to the community. They have done a project where they gathered food in the community to assist the center food drive. This was the student council. They collected over 800 non-perishable food items, and will spread the holiday cheer by helping with families in need. The last one on this list is the Hour of Code practiced across USD489. On December 8th through the 14th, students across the district participated in the Hour of Code global event. Students from all grades engaged in writing computer code in their classrooms. Nearly 45 million students worldwide participated in the Hour of Code initiative to honor Computer Science Education Week. Many teachers took the extra time studying and planning for these events. We applaud and forward sense of your forward sense of thinking and giving students a chance to create code. Very, very good things going on in the district again. And I do want to give a little recognition here to the USD489 Foundation. They just had achieved getting their grant from the Kansas Health Foundation for $10,000. That's the money they use for special milk and projects such as that. They are, obviously will take any donation, and hopefully Cheryl's in the audience. I think we're seeing more participation in that. They do have a fundraiser where they're helping with selling tickets to the Rose Garden Steakhouse and catering, New Year's Eve banquet. Tickets are available for many of those members, I think $50 and in advance, so please see one of the members of the foundation.
Cheryl, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the foundation get X amount of percent of those ticket sales as well?
Correct, it is. $8 per ticket.
Okay.
And I just, all the Christmas concerts, I know there's 1 to 9 and they're going on all the time. They have just been wonderful. Our teachers have done a great job, and I can't make them all, but everything I've gone to has been outstanding. So that is the school spotlights report.
Very good. Well, thank you, Dean. Next, we have report of committees. And first up, we have the Best of the Best awards presentation. And again, we had a number of submissions through this month, and it's great to see the number of quality people that we have in the school district on a monthly basis, and we continue to look forward to those submissions. So, of course, we can only pick 2 winners every month. We have 1 staff member and 1 student member as well, and so those that were submitted, definitely keep on submitting. And the Best of the Best awards, really what that is it's really recognizing the students and the staff that really just excel every single day and really push the district forward, and that's through character, compassion, and a lot of other things, and a lot of leadership as well. And so I know we have first up for the staff, Karen Smith is actually going to talk a little bit about who she had submitted, and I think unfortunately she's ill tonight, and so she couldn't make it, but we'd definitely love to hear from you, Karen.
Oh, well, thank you. My name is Karen Smith. I'm a 5th grade teacher at O'Laughlin, and I did nominate Mrs. Nancy Lundy, and unfortunately she came to school today and gave her best effort, but went home with the flu and a fever, so she's not here tonight. But she is our interrelated special ed teacher. She has our 3rd through 5th graders, and I've had the privilege of working with her for several years. Nancy is one of those people that exemplifies an exceptional teacher. Not a day goes by that she doesn't come to me and say, hey, I was thinking about so-and-so last night, and he's just really heavy on my heart, and here's what I think we could try. What do you think? Or she'll say something about, I just don't think that this child's getting enough to eat. What do you think about let's getting those food packs, that they get on the weekend? And I'm like, absolutely, let's go for it. She's gotten clothing for the children, winter coats and gloves and hats. And, part of a child who's on an IEP who requires the special education has to have individualized lessons written. And Nancy does a phenomenal job of, we meet every Saturday at school. I know, that's just what we do. And, she has excellent lessons written, and they're very individualized. And these kids have the best of the best in her. They really do. I've watched her cry over these children. I've watched her laugh. If the child just doesn't seem to be having the best day, she'll pull them aside. She'll give them a hug and just celebrate who they are and those little tiny accomplishments. She just has a heart of gold and is able to really connect with the children. And we are very fortunate, we are very blessed to have her in our school district. And that's pretty much why I nominated Nancy Lundy as the best of the best.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Smith. And we'll make sure that Miss Lundy gets everything that's coming to her, including the gift certificate from Gella's. Of course, they do help sponsor that one. And up next, we do have our student nominee, and that nomination was actually made by Miss Elaine Rollletter, and so I'll let you go ahead and talk about Miss Riley.
Tonight I'm honored to introduce to you Riley Kirshner. Riley is a fourth grader at Lincoln Elementary School. She is one of those students who's there bright and early in the morning, and just passing Riley in the hallway will brighten your day. Riley is also a student who gives 110% in her classroom all of the time. She loves school. It's very, very evident that she just can't wait to be there each and every day. She's one of those kids that can get her work completed, and then she turns around and she helps the other students who might be having a little bit of trouble. So, she's just one of those kids that's a role model for others in her classroom. Riley is a member of our student council, so she is always coming up with different ideas to suggest to Mrs. Young, our counselor, who is in charge of student council. And so recently we just completed an activity, and she was a part of that activity. And so we're excited to finish it on Friday. And so she's just one of those kids that when you are in her presence, just like her shirt says, you leave happy. So, Riley Kirshner is one of the best in USD489. So thank you for recognizing her.
Thank you, Ms. Rollletter. And Riley, we're going to ask that you come up so we can congratulate you, also hand you the award, and of course you had the gift certificate from Whiskey Creek already. So if you just want to throw it on there. Okay, and again, I'd like to thank everybody for those nominations, and again, we will do this in January, so go ahead and get those submitted, and they do go to the board clerk, and so she'll look forward to getting those. Up next, we do have the O'Laughlin Ambassador Program, and Dean, do you want to introduce that?
Nancy, I think, is going to introduce the students and talk about the program a little bit.
Hi, I'm Nancy Harmon with two amazing young students from O'Laughlin School. We're here to tell you about the O'Laughlin Ambassador Program. We started the program in 1998 as a leadership opportunity for our students. We've traveled to Topeka to speak with state legislators. We've traveled to Plainville to learn how they do furniture building. We've even eaten at Gella's to practice manners. We do a lot of different things, and I have Isis Norris And I have Nate Brooks here to tell you about what we're doing this year.
To be an ambassador, we had to complete an application form and write an essay about what being an ambassador means. Being an ambassador is a great experience for middle school student council. Both my older sister and my older cousin have been an O'Laughlin ambassador, and they both went on to serve as natural helpers and student council.
We hosted the Mix It Up lunch day and for all the students and a holiday staff breakfast for all the O'Laughlin staff. We sponsored the first Kindness Day assembly for all the students and staff. Our guests at the assembly included Superintendent Katz, a message from our Hayes Mayor Henry Swaller, members from the Fort Hayes baseball team, Victory E. Tiger, and the Fort Hayes Singers. Next semester, we will be looking forward to hot chocolate mornings and helping with the chili supper and cleaning up the Friendship Garden in the spring.
Also in the spring, on April 23rd, the ambassadors will travel to Abilene to visit the Eisenhower Presidential Library. This trip was funded by a grant from the Dane G. Hansen Foundation. Our special trip includes group activities, tours, and even a pizza lunch for everyone. We are excited about this opportunity to learn more about the life and leadership of President Eisenhower.
My favorite part about ambassadors is Mix It Up lunch day because you get to meet so many new friends and get a good experience to talk to others.
I really enjoy being an ambassador because of all the fun projects that we do. I also like the feeling of responsibility that it requires. I believe I'm learning skills that could be used later on. This also has guided my decision to run for student council at Hayes Middle School next year.
Thank you for letting us present.
Do you have any questions for us?
What's your favorite thing at O'Laughlin to do?
I don't know. My favorite thing's probably the ambassadors.
The ambassadors, that's a good answer. How about you? You're saying you're not going to go different than about recess or math? No? Okay.
So what made you choose the ambassadors? Because that's probably a very select group of people. Am I correct about that?
Yeah.
Why did you choose it?
I chose it because my older brother did it and it sounded really fun, and you just get to meet so many new people when you do it.
Like I said before, my older sister is in there, and one time I joined in on one of the meetings, and it just looked really fun, and I thought I had to do that.
Very good.
Great job, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Awesome.
Up next, we have communication from other organizations.
We have the attached the Hayes Rec Commission meeting minutes from November and the reports from early childhood, the minutes, the PIR data, and the director's report are all attached.
Okay, moving on, report of superintendent.
I just have one thing, and Rusty, do you want to come up? And we just wanted to follow up a little bit on discussion at the work session on the lighting, and I think Rusty's going to talk a little bit about kind of where we are with that.
Yeah, if you didn't pick up on the work session, I was just a little bit flustered. HTK was sort of unraveling everything that I thought was taking place with that. Paper, the documents that I have show the lighting project not being part of the bond. So I was moving forward with that being separated, and then Zach was sitting there putting it all into the bond, and I had sort of lost my train of thought there. But nevertheless, we're putting $30,000 a year into repairs in the district out of the general fund. Go back to my original thought. My original thought was to move that out of the general fund, move it into the capital outlay fund. Go ahead and start updating the lights. The lights that we're pulling out then can be reused to do the repairs, and that way we're moving forward into the technology that we want rather than just keep repairing what we currently have. And what I'm working with Tim to, with his company, to try to figure out is how to do that the best for the district and also the best for what we want for like lighting for the rooms and that kind of thing. Originally was looking at the hallways because I could start right away, get there, get the lighting out, start using that stuff to offset the general fund so we're not spending more money out of the general fund and move forward. Still sort of my plan for right now. We're going to go ahead and go look at the high school some more, look at classrooms. Really to give you a true audit, we're going to have to go through and inventory every light in that building to come in and give you actually what the savings would be. And we know that. I was hoping that I could show some of that on the hallway. That was my other frustration that night. Those numbers come in way low. Hallway's the worst case scenario as far as savings because of the way they're using it. Classrooms are going to be the best case. Also, after the meeting, I stepped out and talked with the guys from HTK, and we were talking about what they were looking at for lighting. Chuck agreed that I was on the right track as far as getting in, putting new fixtures in and using the old ones just to do repairs. Visited with them a little bit about what kind of lighting they're going to be using. That conversation will be going on. So in the future, I'm going to be bringing in some bids for lighting, but that's the idea. It's not the performance contract that it was appearing to be, because that was never my plan. My plan was basically just to stop spending money on repairs and start spending money on the improvements. Any questions?
I know you were focused on the high school, but are some of the elementary schools in worse shape where you could start with some of those that are bigger needs, or?
Actually, with the lighting throughout the district's pretty much the same.
Okay.
There's a lot of old lighting in the district, a lot of T12 still, and we've been trying to retrofit that into the T8, and we finally decided that by the time we got there, we were already going to be into LED, so we might as well start looking past that and start working on doing bigger replacement and less repair.
Is there going to be any update in wiring, or is it simply just the fixture?
Well, at Hayes High, we're going to be dropping wattage with the LEDs to everything that's there going to support what we have to. We won't have to make any changes. In the classrooms, we're going to look at some control packages that allow them to dim lights, so like when they're using overhead or using their smart boards or their Apple TVs, whichever they have in the room, that they can control that without having to shut lights off. They can just simply dim them.
Now, all the LEDs that I've seen, they don't come in strips, correct? They're just all cans?
Nope. When we go out, I think next month, is it January that we're out at Hayes High? Or is it February? It may be February. When we're out there, we'll take you into the multi-purpose room and let you see it. It's troffers just like these, and you'll be amazed at the light, how much difference it is, and the control that you have with it. Anything else?
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rusty.
And I do not have anything else for under that report.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Move on to financial reports. Tracy, do you want to go ahead and lead us through that?
Sure. For November, we have expended a little bit less than 25% of all the budgets. There aren't any exceptions that I need to bring to your attention. Everything is running pretty smoothly and looking good. Of course, we're waiting for the legislature to come back into session next month to see if there's any changes to K-12 education. But at this point, everything is pretty good. So.
On that note, just, you guys have been hearing along with everyone else the shortfall that we're going to be facing, and we really won't know. What Governor Brownback has proposed, most of those things have to be approved by the legislators when they come back. I think it's on the 13th, January 13th, I think is when they start. So we need, and actually we're going to meet with Sue, but we need to start talking with the legislators about their thoughts, what can they do to help us. They talk about money that doesn't go directly into the classroom. I'm making an assumption, but I think that some of the things I've heard, that would be state aid on different things, bond and interest, capital outlay, what was the other, there's local option budget. So, I mean, in our case, that wouldn't hurt us as bad as some of the other things, because we don't get anything on bond and interest, we don't get anything in capital outlay for state aid. Local option budget we do, but that was one thing that's been hashed or thrown around. But I just, if they do a base state aid cut, or base state aid per pupil cut, then obviously that's going to hurt real bad. So we just have to wait. We are taking a very conservative approach on spending and all of those things, and see what happens here in the very near future, because next year's when the 675, somewhere in that neighborhood, shortfall will have to be made up. So that's an awful lot. And the amount that the state or K-12 education takes is over 50% of the state budget, general fund budget. So we are concerned and have a close eye on it, and we'll see what we can find out, if anything, before January.
Are you starting to plan at all for different scenarios? Maybe a 2% cut, or 2% reduction, 5% reduction?
For
any of those?
If what the state does?
Yeah,
we
especially for
haven't
not
put-
this year, but the next coming year.
Right, and we haven't put dollars on that, what that would mean in our budget. We will very soon, but we are working administratively with, where we are going forward next year with everything. I mean, we'll have to, there's not a whole lot of low-hanging fruit left. We'll have to have some serious talks. It just depends. We need to know sooner than later, but we will have to have some serious talks about how to make up that difference if that's the route they go. Look at programs and things like that. So hopefully we won't get there, but we'll see.
Okay.
Anything
Any
else,
other
Tracy?
questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Consent agenda. Item 9 here, approval of consent agenda. We'll do in one motion to approve, which will include the work session minutes from December 8th, 2014, the board meeting minutes from November 17th, 2014, the financial reports, which include the petty cash report and the investment report, personnel transactions, and the approval of bills in the amount of $3,235,367.52. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Patterson,
Second.
second by Board Member Rankin. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. On to new business. First up, we have Adams, Brown, Barron, and Ball audit. Ken and Melissa, do you want to come forward?
Everybody have their copy and computers? Like hard copies, okay.
I would if you have
Did we
one.
get it? Did we get the full thing?
You know I probably need that. We got copies for everyone.
Brought the book again. Thank you.
I'm okay, thank you.
Ken, I'll take one. I have the draft copy, but
Do we have a soft copy?
Yeah.
we'll file that.
Yes.
Make it a lot easier to write notes. I guess I can keep it for future.
Thank you.
have you go ahead and open up the audit report to page 4. You do have a loose leaf letter, and that's the governance letter, and we'll go over that in just a few moments. First, we're going to do the actual report. First 3 pages are what we call the independent auditor's report, and that just goes through your basis of accounting, and if you had done something that the basis of accounting is not allowed, then the report would have been modified. As it is, it's not modified. It just talks through it, says that you cannot do it on the basis of generally accepted accounting principles. And so then it says it's adverse because it was done on a budgetary basis. But that is correct. That's okay. That means it's okay to report. It's just it means to you that it was not done on generally accepted accounting principles. And so again, you have an unqualified report on a regulatory basis of accounting. If you go ahead and look at page 4, this is your summary statement of receipts, expenditures, and unencumbered cash. And we're going to look at the third page on the right-hand side of the page. And this is your ending unencumbered cash. And the ending unencumbered cash is your cash balance less accounts payable and encumbrances. And that's what you would have remaining, or it would be your retained earnings in a business. Looking through it, the first item we're going to look at is the general fund, and you had $574 in unencumbered cash in the year. Again, this fund should be relatively small, and that is what you have done. The next one is the supplemental general fund, and that's a combination of state equalization aid, as was explained to you earlier, plus ad valorem taxes collected. And so at the end of the year, this is $671,959. Jumping down 7 line items, the capital outlay, and you have an ending unencumbered cash of $609,798. We're going to skip down a couple more to about halfway down the page, and it's the co-op special education fund. And in this fund, you have a decrease in unencumbered cash of $465,000. And again, that's because we do not have the budget authority to make the transfer from the general fund to get to this fund. And so we started the year off with less money in here. And again, that's acceptable and that's okay. Looking to the next item, we're going to go down about another 5 line items. And this is your contingency reserve fund. In your contingency reserve fund, you can set aside monies for operational events in the future if you needed them. And you did need them this year, so you were able to spend $294,325. And again, it's a non-budgeted fund, and you have that ability to be able to use it this year. If we go ahead and look, you're going to see a couple of negative unencumbered cash balances. The funds remaining down the rest of that page are your federal grants. And your federal grants are operated on a reimbursement basis, and as such, you had to expend the money first, and then you get the reimbursement the next month. So again, those are items that we've seen in the past, and most districts have that. Looking over to the next page, this right here, we're going to take a look at what your total ending unencumbered cash is, which is about halfway down the page. This year, it was $2,018,939, which is a decrease from the previous year of $1,445,000. And that decrease in unencumbered cash is, the first item is that you had to go through and you had encumbered or had encumbrances on the middle school building of $550,000. So that cash, again, as explained earlier, is a grant. So it came in July and August. And so that's $550,000 because it's a negative number. The special education co-op used cash of $465,000. The contingency fund then is $294,000. And then the district activity funds, again, you can need policies in place to look at those and to utilize those instead of using perhaps the general fund. And so those increased by $131,000. So again, all in comparison with what we were able to do with the budget shortfall. Are there any questions on this page? These 2 pages? If not, we're going to go ahead and go back to page 11 of the audit report. ownership, compliance, and accountability. And there was a custodial agreement with Master Bank that wasn't in place at the end of the year, and so we had to go ahead and report that in the audit report. There are no other violations against the statutes. That means you had no unencumbered cash balance violations, nor did you have any budget violations. A custodial agreement means that when we do business and Master Bank was a new one in town, we have to have an agreement between the school district and the bank, and that's your security agreement. Then you have to have an agreement between USD489 and then with your pledging bank. And the pledging bank, and we didn't have that agreement, was not signed. They were working on it, but it wasn't in place. It has since been put into place, and eventually after the agreement, it just wasn't in place when it's started. We're going to go to page 14. And on page 14 is the changes of long-term liabilities, which is basically is what the district would owe. And so the first one is you entered into a new no fund warrant with Astor Bank throughout the year for a new addition of $450,000. And at the end of the year, you pay down, so it's $300,109. We have a school bus lease that was remaining at $2,973. So that should be paid off here in February of 2015. You have a lease left on CIC software, which will be paid off in a year. Looking down through there, the middle school addition, the baseball infield turf will be paid off in August of 2015. And then the middle school addition of the $1.1 million at the end of the year. The total indebtedness of the school district is $2,287,292. Are there any questions on this? Going on, we're going to take a brief look at the general fund. That's on page 20. We're going to look at total receipts, which is halfway down the page, second column on the left-hand side of the page, and read actual. If you look at actual receipts compared to a year ago, you had a decrease of $538,000. The majority of that, of the $538,000, is the state equalization and payment benefits. So again, you see that being reflected in our total receipts. And if we go ahead and flip on back to page 22, total expenditures for the district likewise went down by that $538,000. The second thing to note here is to look to see if you'd expended 100% of your budget, which you did. If you don't expend 100% of the budget, there's a little penalty that the state has for not expending it. So you are obligated and required to expend 100% of the budget as required by the state, and you met that. On page 23, which is the next page, is your supplemental general fund or your local auction budget, LOB budget. On this, just to total expenditures that were allowed, again, as indicated, you do get state equalization in this fund. And the state equalization then requires you to spend 100% of the budget as established by the state statutes. And so you did expend 100%, and your budget was by $22,000 from a year ago. We're going to flip on back now to page 28. And this is the capital outlay fund. Just a couple of items to note in this fund is it's funded by ad valorem tax, but you also have a small amount of sale of assets. So anytime you sell an asset, the money does go into this fund. And then you had some miscellaneous income this year of $35,000. You Your expenditures had increased by $110,000, and then that reflected in a unencumbered cash decrease down to the $609,738. Is there any questions with capital outlay fund? If there's not, we'll continue to move ahead. On page 32 is the food service fund. The only thing I want to mention or call your attention to is that the food service fund is actually a self-sufficient fund, meaning that as a district, we do not have to transfer any funds into this for operations. And so some school districts do have to offset their operations by transfers from the general fund. So again, you do a good job of having this fund be self-sufficient, monitoring your sales and your expenditures. Looking on back to page 39.
Question real quick
Yes.
on that. Dean or Tracy, and we still came out in the black and we moved all the salaries. This was the first year we moved some of the salaries into the nutrition department, or not?
That took effect this year, in fiscal year 15. We'll see that
Okay.
reflected as a
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be some changes, I mean, that we do this year. And I don't know how much equipment, I mean, one of the reasons there's this balance is for replacement of equipment, ovens and things, and I know Jessica's making some plans to purchase some of those things, but they'll come out of
Okay.
it. So.
On page 39 is the special education co-op. And again, this is a co-op and it's funded by state and federal funding, and then other districts also help fund for the education of the special ed co-op. The transfers were down then by the $468,000, which is what was decreased, and expenditures were down by $200,000. So again, conservatively kept the expenditures down, and then the transfers were decreased to take some off
One
the
of the things
general
we always want
funds.
to look at is that unencumbered cash balance, what it was at the beginning of the previous fiscal year. Went from $1 million and basically $50,000 to $269,000 in a 2-year period, because I think West State was transferring money into that fund this year.
And that's what, when we talked about not being able to, or where we have to make the transfers on time, I mean, that's pretty apparent now that, and assessments went up, and I know Mark and I had a conversation about what that'll look like next year and into the future, and so we have our eye on it and take care of it.
Marty, you look like you have some questions.
No, I'm good. I guess I probably should have said something back on page 28, was it? The two,
The capital outlay funds where I thought maybe you had a question.
yeah, 2.5 million, you said? What page was that? 28, yeah, 2.568 million from taxes and revenues of, and that includes our money that we get from Ellis County?
Yes, it is.
You know, that's, being a dwelling industry, you know, it's going to happen. Our revenue went up from $1,428,000 to $2,568,000.
And
And in reality, we talk about that, and I always review the budget for the superintendent, and it's amazing that a lot, we think of Ellis being a oil-producing state or county, largest oil-producing state, a lot of the oil production that's up along Saline River Road and stuff is not in District 489's.
what falls into Plainville's?
Falls in Plainville, because every year we were doing the budget, we talked about was the well valuation going up, because that's what's driven a lot of Ellis County's valuation up. But there's not that much of well valuation in USD489. It's the well south of town. But, you know, when you think about Victoria District gets us to the east and Ellis to the west, but all the oil on the county line up there in the field up to the north of town here.
So on that
it's not
effect-
actually in 489's valuation.
What would you predict on that 2.5 million with oil at 54 today, 44 Kansas?
Yeah, I just
You know,
read
if
an
it,
article that they use for the 2014 budget, they used like $78 a barrel.
Yes.
And so, 58 to 78, that's what, 70%?
Well, no,
30% drop.
30% drop.
30% drop.
30% drop, so out of that 2.5 million, how much of it do you think is derived? What, if it stays there when the new renditions come out, would you be able to say it's $250,000, $500,000?
Pretty hard to tell you, because I can't tell you offhand how much of your evaluation for this last fiscal year,
Yeah.
I can go back to the office and I can send you an email or.
Well, I'd asked Sarah earlier tonight to start looking into that. If we had some numbers,
That would be good.
we're going to need that for next year, if the oil rendition, unless something happens and it spikes back up. But, what we're going to pay in taxes is going to be drastically dropped. And I think 70% of that goes to the school district, of the stuff that's here. So,
Like I said, we probably won't give her 489 as some of the other municipalities, rural counties, and other school districts around here. That will still have some consequences.
Okay. Well, I thought that when we went by that, that's where I was needing to look at, but I wasn't sure. That's it.
The last page, we'll look at the audit reports, page 72. And this is your schedule of findings and question costs. And because you have expended over $500,000 in federal expenditures, you're required to have what they call an OMB 130% audit. And so USD489 actually spent a little over $6 million in federal funding last year. And of that, then you have to take a look at certain major programs and 50% of those federal expenditures. And so on this page, we file the audit report with the Federal Clearinghouse. They look at this, and what they're going to look at is underneath financial statements. You have an unqualified report, which is the best type of report you can have. And then they look to see if you have any internal control issues over financial reporting. And you did not. You had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control, meaning that you have policies and procedures in place so the same person can complete all functions at one time. Okay? That's important to make sure that you segregated those duties so that if something were to happen or someone were to be gone, you could continue with your day-to-day operations at the entity. The second thing they look at is underneath federal awards. And in the federal awards, likewise, they look at internal control. Now, internal control is not the same as what it would be on your financial statements for your day-to-day operations. What they really like to see is that you have one person in place that really knows that federal program, such as Mark knows the special education program. He has an IDEA cluster, which is a special ed program. He knows what can be expended out of that. He has the knowledge, the ability. He's attended several years of training. So again, for internal control, he knows what the expenditures can be in there. So that's a good internal control. And so he oversees that program and then sends the approval process through. And so again, that's something that's really important when you look at the federal funds to ensure that you have someone that has that education or skills or knows what the program is. And the federal government provides a lot of training in that area for different grants. So it's one of the things we look at. So you have no material weakness nor significant deficiencies. We had no findings that have to be reported. And again, if you did, then sometimes that federal agency could come out and ask you questions. Or you could have to write them a letter telling them that you'll get that corrected next year. If it's an oversight, here's what we put into place to correct that. The three major programs that we looked at is, the first one is called Hazardous Mitigation Grant. And it's kind of a weird name, but basically it's your FEMA on the Police Middle School edition of that. And so for the Tornado Safe Room, that's actually the name of the federal funding that you would receive to use that. We also looked at the Head Start program, and then the Childhood Development Block Grant. And so those are the three major programs that were audited by us this year. And again, as I indicated, you had no findings. The bottom part says, what's the threshold to distinguish a type A, type B program? Again, the federal government dictates that and says that anything over any expenditures over $300,000 $100,000 in the federal program, has to be a type A program. And so there's rules and regulations we have to follow and we have to look at. Then the last one says, do you qualify as a low-risk auditee? Now, this is not the risk associated with the district or anything like that. What it means is, did you include all of the component units within your audit report? We didn't, so you wouldn't be able to qualify as a low-risk auditee. Now, your component units are things such as your educational foundation and the Case Recreation Commission. And again, most entities and most districts do not include those in their reports. And so, you know, you have to look at 50% of your federal expenditures versus just 25%. So again, you know, so we look at more, so it's a little different. Most entities do not meet 25% for the low risk auditee. Doesn't mean that you have any risk associated though within the district that caused it to go up.
Either of those two entities have a June 30th fiscal year ending, both have December 31. It kind of makes it kind of difficult to
Merge them into one.
report.
Are there any other questions on the audit report? If there's not, then I would like you to pull out the letter, the governance letter. We did go over the audit report in advance with Dean, Tracy, Cheryl, and Renee. That way, if there was any questions that they had, we would be able to address them. And so now we have to go over what we went over with them within the audit report. And so basically what we talked to them about was we told them that, you know, is your accounting practices, standard accounting practices, and is it acceptable? Yes, they are. And so that's the quantitative aspects of the accounting practices. We did not encounter any difficulties when performing the audit, and we had no corrected or uncorrected misstatements that you need to be concerned about. So that means that everything that was posted in your books were correct. So when you were making management decisions based upon these financial statements, there's not anything that was changed that you would go back to have to look at. We had no disagreements with management. If we asked them anything, they provided us all the information we needed. And, you know, we do ask for a lot of information when we come in here. We do take up a lot of time with them. We do make them step over several things. They were very helpful, took their time, explained anything that we had a question on, and really helped us out with our audit. So again, we thank them for their time and being considerate when we were here and really answering anything we had. There's a management representation letter that you guys will sign. And then going down, we have auditor's recommendations. And so basically, I'll let you read those 4 bullet points.
How many schools did you audit this year?
Eight off, about 8.
8?
Overall, total firm audit, probably about 30.
No, but are they all suffering from cutbacks?
Yes.
On your bullet point 3, with the recommend that changes made to employees' payroll within a county system be reviewed by another individual, is that a supervisor?
Yes, we would just ask that if Malia was making changes, and you guys have a lot of work agreements, and those work agreements are really, are moved or changed on a pretty regular basis. Malia does a good job of getting them in the spreadsheet staff ask a little one more time that either Tracy or Cheryl or somebody review them. It would be extremely easy to have a calculation error because of how many times they're changed. And so just to avoid anything in the future from either underpaying or overpaying someone, we ask that it be reviewed.
The other school districts that you audit, are they doing anything creative to save money?
You know, we do audit the break-in district, which is another comparable, Delta Colton, one of the good one. And each district seems to have different situations. Break-in does not have capital outlay. You know, they've made significant improvements. Anybody that's been down there for activity funds, but they receive some aid for
Migrants Title I aid, and so that has not quite as many strings attached to it, maybe which a Title I aid here does. And so, again, I think some of the schools, they have different opportunities to use some of the, they get different grants, not to make that of the community.
As we've talked about in the past, this district's been hurt. You were paying out of the capital outlay fund, rent for the Kennedy building. You're probably on top of technology in comparison to one of the other districts who are paying for those leases for those computers for the students at ASI out of your capital outlay fund, and that's hurt your balances. But, you know, like I always said, I've got a 1A school district that's over $1 million in their capital outlay fund. We don't know what's going to happen to that when the state starts looking at balances that districts maintain. They may start pulling some of that back. And we've got one district that I audit that merged two districts. They got some special funds for the last 5 years after they completed the merger. Those 2 years, that's dropping off. We delivered their report already, and we're talking, you know, they know that they're going to be facing some cutbacks and spending because of the fact that they got special monies from the state for the last couple of years by merging those two districts. It's a problem that we see everywhere.
So the school districts that were real frugal and put money away may get it taken back away?
You know, I think you and I think Gene would verify that you know, someone's always looking and saying, yeah, you don't have any money in the general fund or in your local option, but a lot of districts put away the maximum amount they could into that contingency reserve fund and into their capital outlay fund if they could. 489, we've never been able to do that, and so those districts could be facing some problems in the future when the state looks at their total monies. I think, wasn't there a special study done on that?
Yeah, that's a real concern for a lot of districts of sweeping those funds. I don't know how it would work, but we don't have as much worry as a lot. Oh.
The one district that has a lot of money in it, they've got a helium plant in there, and you know, that brings a lot of valuation. We have valuations, like I said, we don't have a lot of oil valuation in this district, and you know, we have, you know, the proper haze and that's helped us a lot. The building that's gone on in haze in the last years.
The new housing districts going in?
Are there any other questions? If there's not, at some point, if you approve the audit report, then we can go ahead and get it filed with the state. Then we can go ahead and take care of that.
When does that need to be filed?
Well, it doesn't have to be filed with June 30th, but
Okay.
like it's
Okay.
done.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
May 30th. Probably a big one. When you went to May 30th. Let's just do the day of. Push it right up to the day.
Dean, could we have a response on a couple of those recommendations, on what we plan to do?
We've already met, and I'll let Tracy talk about that. As far as money, all after-school programs, and Cheryl, you might explain that just real quick. I think we didn't, secretaries were gone before, is that right? And didn't get some money sent in to the,
The monies for district monies from the national care programs were delayed transfer to district office. We didn't cash until after the end of the fiscal year. And just to verify that those were corrected and done in July. So it was just a matter of what we're going to proactive next year to ensure that doesn't happen.
and then the next bullet about the ticket sales, and I don't know, Craig, have you started that now?
Yes, we
Yeah.
started that this year with the help of the district office. Since the middle schools had not been charging at the gates, and we started out, and now we're going ticket to ticket, depending on whether it's a student or an adult ticket, so you have to check back with the gate money and discounted twice. So we're back on to what the high school is doing now.
Okay. So since the beginning of the year, we've been doing that now? Okay.
Starting in football and volleyball.
Okay.
And then the third bullet, we had discussed that, and I know Tracy, I believe Jennifer is the one that, as we go through that, will review all of those and make sure that everything is in line. The last one, I don't know. What?
The last one is
Yeah.
just to let you know that the federal funding, the federal government's been busy, and so instead of calling it something like a single audit or an OMB circular A-133, the federal government went through and they changed and brought all of our cost circulars into one big grant guide called the Uniform Grant or UG Grant Guide. And so as they've done that, it's effective December 26th of 2014. It's been a long time coming. It raises federal expenditures to $750,000, but they haven't decided yet what compliance requirements that you're going to need. And so you will not undergo an audit underneath it until June 30th of 2016. So in the next few months, you're going to be hearing some things. And so again, as Mark goes through or Dawn goes through their education this year, they're probably going to be hearing some things and telling you that some things need to change. And that's because of this document.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on under item B, the copy center copier bid.
This is what we had discussed at the work session, the copier that sits in the room right over here. Bid from Xerox, what we discussed, $1,284.74 monthly for 60 months on that one. The other big copier runs out in 2 years, Brian? Do you remember?
3, I believe.
3? And that is the one that, when that time comes, we will look and hopefully not have to replace that. Long-range plan is to reduce printers everywhere in the district, use copiers in that sense, and then we can track usage and see where we have high usage and use this as much as we possibly can, because it's obviously much cheaper to do that.
Okay, before we go into any discussion, do we have a motion to approve the bid submitted from Xerox?
I make a motion to accept the long-run copier bid from Xerox.
Okay, motion by Board Member Rankin. Any seconds? I'll second the motion. Open it up for discussion. Any discussion?
Yeah, Brian, you want to come up? I guess the question was, the other copier, the other big copier in there runs out in 3 years, and the plan is not to renew it, and it's an older copier than this, or is it the same brand?
It is a very similar copier to what we're getting with this new lease. That was just done last year, I believe, a year and a half ago.
This is year 2.
So year 2 of that copier. So we're running 5 million prints through them. So you're looking at 2.5 million prints per copier.
one machine can't do 5 million.
I think it'd be tough.
It'd be tough until we reduce it. You know, only problem I'm having is.
Along with the
That's what I
copier,
have.
though, it's the booklet maker, the folding, it's that side of it. We don't, that lease that we have right now, which is one
Yeah.
that 3 years left, it doesn't have the features
Okay.
of the bigger one that we're.
How are we doing that stuff now?
With the current RICO that we have.
Okay.
It expires here in the next couple of weeks. So we have a RICO, and I mean, the copy center's right over there, but we have a RICO that is feature rich, and then we have another Xerox that's a copier. And it does have some features, but it does not have the folds, the bindings,
Hole punch.
stapling, all the ins and outs of the other one.
It's a bad timing to follow Adams around Vernon Ball. You know, after that, you know, you know, the only problem.
It is right out here too. So.
Yeah, they left, but the problem I have is a 5-year lease, you
Yeah.
know, and I don't know where we're gonna be in 5 years, nor does anybody else. I mean, we don't even know where we're gonna be in a year, so I'm just having a little trouble with a 5-year lease, so when you
What
can
is-
ease my attention there.
Well, I think the way it states, and I think Bill could probably help me out with this, but in the event of a financial issue, we would be able to terminate that lease of that copier.
With no penalty?
That's a correct statement.
Yeah, at any time that the money is not budgeted to make that payment, then we have a right to cancel that contract. Of course, we lose the copier.
And that's why we put that
Yeah, that's percent of the cash basis.
So could we do that for the existing copier that doesn't do everything we need, get rid of that lease and get a new lease that, for one copier that does everything we need?
We could do that in the next budget cycle.
Well, what is the game plan as far as how we're moving forward? I know there was discussion at the work session about starting to get more people as far as printing and things like that. How far or where are we at on that as far as to start, you know, sending more print jobs and things like that?
I mean, I'm going to tell you, we're not very far. I mean, the copy center, really, IT had nothing to do with until now. And now I know about copy center. So it's creating the plan, right? That's where we're at. I mean, this is the need that we have.
So if we don't budget the older copier, the one that's in there already next year, we can let it go if we see fit.
I think it'd be something to discuss.
Okay.
How many copies can, so you said each one does 2.5 million copies?
I mean, that's just going off of the stat sheet that Martha printed out last night. That's 5 million, I think it's like 5 to 6 million copies per machine.
And you're looking to increase that number?
We're looking to decrease that number, but. I mean,
We're hoping that.
Well, you have a number of printers in the schools, right?
We have,
That are costing quite a bit compared to what we could get them for at the copy center?
I think there's a lot of things to be looking at to capitalize on that.
I think every school doesn't have them, but several have, like home and school purchased, I don't know if you don't, Elaine, I know O'Laughlin, Roosevelt, that may be the only two, but they have copiers that were purchased, and do you know of any other, Brian?
I don't know of any other.
But they run copies on there, I know they were having some issues with the numbers and all of those things as well, but.
I think the key is educating staff, and getting that back into how we do copies and how the copy set does. I mean, that's an all-you-can-eat plan. That's staples, that's everything except for paper.
When things are printed right now, does it go to the schools or do people have to come pick it up?
It goes to the schools via the deliverer.
Little thing.
Good.
My concern is that, one, I mean, we have one employee, and we need 2 high-end production machines, which seems wasteful. So I think if we could figure a way to have one, I know we said, well, we can look at it next year about going to one. That doesn't mean we're going to. And that, to me, that's an open-ended decision that if we forget, then it may not get brought up. The other is that we have, I think the number that I calculated were 1,800 copies per student per year that we make based on that 5 million, almost 6 million copies we've made over the last couple of years. So I think that's excessive. I think we need to figure out a way to reduce that, and with a plan on how we're going to do that. But also, I think the bid we sent out for this is an unlimited monthly copy, and I know that the way that we do copies, or the way we have done copies, has been such that makes it difficult. But I'd sure like to see one that says, here's our peak month, what does it cost for that actual copy? What's the bid for that?
I only can find you to give you a bid for peak months versus non-peak months.
I'm not saying peak months, I'm
I can
saying,
200,000 copies a month is a lot more than what we're going to pay from what we cost. So that's $1 million. Costing more than what.
well, and the other thing I got was from the last meeting, it seemed that, not from you, but that there was a definite preference for the Xerox over the Ricoh machine, and that we really wanted the Xerox machine, and that always scares me when we're changing the specs or setting up specs such that wouldn't, I mean, if you were going to bid this for a business, you'd say, look, here's how many copies I used, my count for the last 12 months is this, and so we're going to pick the peak number and say, figure the number of copies based upon what we do in our peak month, and set up every month for that, and then build it from there. And then send that out to all vendors, because I know that the only one that would do the unlimited was Xerox. And so if you only have one company that's going to get into the bidding.
We got a Ricoh.
But they said at unlimited, we're not part of that game, right?
I'd assume so, I don't know. I don't know.
If I could say.
I'm here, right? I don't know how to.
Well, I'm not, this isn't critical of you, I'm just saying from a board perspective, I mean, why would you set up a bid that you're not opening it up to competition? And if having unlimited, I don't know, it just seems that wouldn't be how you would do it in any other business entity.
Well, I mean, that's what we had was unlimited in the past, which was the cheapest way to do it. And that's what we bid. And we had one company that thought that even would consider it. I mean, we can bid it again and do it by per copy, but I think it's going to cost us more.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, we can do the 1 million prints and we can pay more for it.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll find somebody that'll do it cheaper, but.
But if you did it, I mean, and I know that there's different peaks, but if you just took 6 million copies, that's what, $500,000 a month?
What they're normally going to do though, in the copier business that I've learned so far, they do an annual, and they do a contract for annual, and you pay for over. They don't pay, you don't get money back for under usage.
No.
So it's,
right.
I don't think that, we can, I mean, we'd have to look at logistics of what it's going to take for the copy center employee to keep track of that. At the end of the day, I don't know if that hampers the operation or not. I'm not in that position to say that right now.
Are there any maximums on number of copies a staff member can run through the copy center?
I don't know. I don't think so.
We used to have a limit on our staff, and when they reach that limit, they had to print a copy. I had our secretary run our volume. We really liked the trend that we're seeing. We're doing a whole lot more scanning and PDFing and posting the rule and paper running. We've also shut down a couple of printers in the CCU because kids were
Print the books.
We talked to them as a class, we talked to each one of the classes, asking for cooperation. As I think the older kids got it, but the younger ones didn't. So basically, the kids had to take a thumb drive down. You know, we're putting some limitations on those things. But the good thing is that the copiers that we have really don't have a lot more capacity than what our old ones did that were off lease. I think a couple years ago, when we paid a monthly, they came on to a little bit longer. But really, the PDF scan is a really nice feature, nice and easy to use. I use it. We just don't even fax from the machine. It has that capability.
That's what we.
And I guess that's where I'm at, exactly where Marty said. I guess that's, and I understand what you're saying, Brian, as far as that, you're just now getting your hands around the copy center, and it sounds like, I don't think it's been involved with the IT, which is good that you're getting into it. My only concern is if we do this now, and granted, we still have the other one for, 2-3 years, you said ballpark, another couple of years for the other, is I guess my concern on that is, if we've already got one, sounds like the high school is actually doing a good job, is by not doing this, do we force more people to start doing the PDF stuff and start getting on board rather than prolonging the inevitable and we're spending $77,000 in the process? That's my
I think we do, but I think if you look at logistics, right, you have a copier go down, I think you'll have a copier down for the most part of the day, right, for a service call. What's the time lost in that day? I don't have those answers, right, but that's the things going through my mind.
Sure.
Right? You can multitask with 2. 5 million copies is a lot of copies. I mean,
and I don't doubt that. That's what I'm just saying, though. If we've already got some areas, I mean, I'd like to see that cut in half. I mean, to where, especially if we're doing all this stuff with iPads and everything else, there's no reason we can't be scanning all these to, PDF and utilizing all of that instead of printing out papers, no different than this type of stuff or whatever, where we've wasted a tree to print this out, but yet we have it in digital. And granted, this.
I mean, we could be, we don't know what's going to happen with one-to-one, right?
Right.
So.
Well, I'm just saying even now, though, I mean, we have how many laptops, desktops, everything else. I'm not saying just for students. I mean, staff and everywhere else as well is what I was referring to. It's just.
Sorry, so you're aware too, I did speak with Rico, and they sent me an email that said the machine that we currently have was on average using 190,000 copies a month. Based on pricing for that, they would charge us $1,140 a month. So it'd be $140 cheaper, but they would limit us to 190,000 copies versus unlimited. So, just so you have that information.
To me, it would seem that we would have some sort of concerted effort, much like we did with the safety plan, to say, we're not going to have this level of printing anymore. I mean, when you're 1,800 copies per student per year. And, I mean, at some point, there's got to be some sort of internal controls to just say, we're not going to do it. And that'll take care of
I think
the problem there.
Yeah, I think it's part of the technology plan and all of those things, but we don't have that right now. I think we will by the end of the year. And then, when you give the number of copies per student, it's not like we print that many and every kid walks home with that many. I mean, that's everything in the world you can think of, but it is a lot. I'm not saying it's not. And I know it can be cut down, but it's going to take some time to do that.
I think that's my concern, is that as we move into major decisions regarding technology, I mean, I was excited when we were at Roosevelt to be in those kindergarten and first grade classrooms to see their shelves just boiling over with paper, and for them to be walking around and talking about what they could be doing with the iPads was exciting. And I think that we can see that change and we can get there, but first we got to talk about that technology piece. My concern, though, is that these teachers, and the staff at the schools have needs right now as they are trying to get through their day, and if we start limiting what they can do at the copy center, I mean, I'm afraid short-term that's going to force more purchases of additional copiers, by home and schools and that sort of thing. They're going to find a way around it, whereas we want to be doing the opposite, which is to encourage even more and more use at the copy center. So I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the productivity at the copy center.
But do we want to encourage more use at the copy center? See, my idea would be is we would have no copy center at all because we don't have paper anymore. It's all electronic.
Well, and ultimately, I hope we can get there, but I think the first step is let's start limiting what's happening in each of the schools, which is cutting down these printers and cutting down these additional copiers. Let's first centralize it, and then we can focus on, because, I mean, we talk about these numbers, and that's just the copy center numbers. I mean, that doesn't even take into account what's happening at each of the schools with those additional copiers.
That's what's scary.
It is.
But buying a new copier doesn't solve any of those problems. It just pushes it off for another day to talk about it later. That what you'll find, and I've gone through it, and it's at a much smaller scale, but when you want to go paperless, you've got to just draw the line in the sand and say, this is what we're going to do, and you do it. If you don't, there will always be those that in your organization, and the bigger your organization, the more of those people that are going to fight it will be out there that are going to always have a reason that, well, we've got to do this on paper.
Do you know which level it is that uses the most paper? I would assume it's probably elementary.
I don't.
You don't want to throw anybody under the bus?
I don't know if we have.
Well, because I'm looking. And I had this discussion with you. My daughter was gone for 2 days, and she came home, and the stack was 3/4 of an inch thick in 2 days, and that's for 5th grade. And I like what you got going here with going completely paperless, but the problem is we don't have the technology in place to do that. And so we've got to put some kind of stopgap in place.
No,
I don't really like the 5-year, I don't like the 5-year lease.
Well, no, it's not
So are you gonna
5
go into the
years.
copy
They
center
said we
business
can
pretty
get out
soon
of it
then?
anytime we want.
You
So
seem
I'm
like
sorry,
you don't like it.
a 3-year wasn't an option? Or is it much more expensive to go
We
through?
can find out if a 3 year is an option. We could do it, there's probably a lot.
Do we have time to do a 3-year, I mean, to bid this out again? Or whatever we need to do?
What's the option of just keeping what we have for the rest of the school year and reviewing this along with the technology? That would be the better question.
I believe the month-to-month was a little bit higher than what Tracy stated earlier, but I think that's why I said, I think we have some options that we could pursue. I think it would cost us a little bit to pursue that. I don't have it.
But even if you're talking $300 a month for 6 months, you are spending money, but if you're going to eliminate it at the end of it, or maybe eliminate the one we've got and replace both of them with one, you're saving a lot more money in the long run.
Yeah, my biggest concern is I have to talk with Martha because of the features that the existing Xerox doesn't have.
But the RICO has that, though.
The RICO does have that. But I'm saying even going down to one, we're in agreement right now for another 3 years with the Xerox. I don't know if we can cancel one to renew a new one.
Yeah.
I don't think that's probably.
Can we keep what we have?
The RICO and the,
I
could
mean,
we
right
keep
now.
that until the end of the year?
But I know it would all be on us, which could get expensive, but if we could.
Oh, you mean the maintenance?
I have to find out on that one. I didn't go down that path yet.
Yeah, I know, I
Well, it would be interesting to see what a service contract, if they would do it for the next 6 months or 7, whatever it takes to get us through the rest of the year, would cost us per month versus signing up for a long-term lease.
And also, can we get a 2-year or a 3-year versus a 5-year? I want to know.
But, and I wonder, I guess, Bill, the question would be, I don't know who, I think Brian brought, it does make sense what Brian said, though. If you're going to budget X number of dollars, can you cancel the old one to get the new one? And, I think they might have an argument.
The preference would be we just work that out with Xerox.
Yeah.
They might be willing to do that.
Saying if in a year or two, this new one's doing everything we need it to do, and get rid of the old one here early.
But they're two different companies, though, right? One's RICO, one's a Xerox?
No, the one we're keeping is Xerox.
We have the Xerox in place.
Okay.
And the RICO is the one that's expiring?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the intermediate time here, I mean, I know that runs out, but will we have the capability to copy and do those things until we can get some of these questions answered?
Will they do
I know that's put me on the spot.
Can they do a 1-month extension?
I can't, I mean,
I know.
to do the basic features of copying, yes. From the features that are needed, I don't know what the requests are. I have to get with Mark on that. I mean, the big,
Are in the schools like we're, and I guess maybe this is a question for Marty, is that something you've kind of just taken on and started like with the teachers and that, like having them install PDF printers and things like that? Is that kind of what you guys are doing up there as far as to do some of that, or?
We've been using the scanning function, so yeah, a lot of that has to do with my business.
Gotcha.
What's nice about this setup is they can,
No, it's.
but generally, we've been doing the PDF scans a lot, but just get a whole lot more of it. I've seen since we got our machine, I don't know, perhaps September, and we have really 60,000 used PDFs. Using that function.
And that was kind of the reason I've asked, because I know, I mean, even myself personally as a business, I mean, I could tell you how many businesses we've set. I mean, PDF printing is free. I mean, you can get free PDF printers all over the place. So I'm just curious if that's something we've looked at, or if we've started rolling out just to start it.
it is, I think.
Pushing or nudging
you got
people.
two ends of the spectrum, right? So then I think you got elementary, I think, a probably has more printing than ASI, right?
Sure.
Needs. And Lockwood Middle School, I mean, you got to look at the big picture, not the small one, right?
Right.
So, I mean, and they have a lot of students, but we still got another 2,100 out there.
Well, part of the question though would be too, for me, is as we look at the, and this ties into the technology issue, but if you're, one of the things that we were told at Roosevelt is, if we can do iPads, we're going to get rid of the need for this paper. Are we?
I don't see why we wouldn't.
Well, I understand, but we were told before that, that we were going to, and we did cut some, but, it seems like if you're going to go to that, you could,
Yeah.
I mean, take that to almost nothing.
Expectations would change. I don't want to say nothing, because there obviously is going to be some, but it could be drastically reduced with a lot of it. Because that's what was so telling, I think, guided reading?
Yeah, well, I would say the subject areas that we know drugs and science that are using them as copies because they're reaching out for materials because we haven't done a textbook about them. And so, our vision is to build 4 shelves with the open education resources if we have the technology. But again, that's going to take time. So yes, all those booklets are guided reading, and on iPads they can interact with them. Those are the pieces. But right now they're being copied because that's the only resources.
Because I know.
That was one example.
Yeah, well, only in a year, and I don't know what building, and I know it wasn't a copyright issue. I mean, it was checked out, but there was, somebody had to print basically a textbook. I mean, that's not accurate, but a whole bunch of pages. I mean, is that because we don't have textbooks available, or but I know Martha does a very good job of checking copyright things, but it was just a whole stack of, and we just.
He did this before. If I'm sitting and get some of his boards on buildings or try to look at increasing that, that's just part of the plan. We work with the schools, get their ideas on this. We'll start with this.
Okay, so Brian, question here.
Okay.
Let's say we move forward with all the iPads. We put iPads in everybody's hands. How quickly can a staff member, teacher be trained on an iPad to PDF everything and train her students to start PDFing everything to his or her students?
I think that's a case-by-case thing.
Do you think, so, no, I'm just saying here, so let's say if we don't approve this, and we say everybody's going to PDF all that, how quickly can a teacher train a kindergartner, first grader, second grader to start using?
It's no different than, when they go to file and print, they're just selecting a different printer instead of the.
But the
Xerox.
kindergartners don't do that
I think
right
from
now.
that perspective, right, I think you're,
Because who's going to do the training on the iPads?
That's why I say, I don't know, we have to find out what they're printing before we can make that comment, right? I don't think it's the students printing that is the copy center
Right.
issue, right? It's the
The staff and the teachers.
Right, but it's training the students to utilize, not paper, the technology to
Yeah.
Which in turn gets the
basically.
teachers.
But that
Yeah.
starts at the teachers.
Yeah.
I understand, but it's
So-
cutting out a flower and pasting it to a piece. I think there's other, I think there's a lot of, there's a bigger picture than just printing a PDF. But that's all I'm saying.
It's dealing with flowers and.
I mean, I couldn't think of anything.
Now you're going to get all touchy-feely, aren't you?
I wasn't planning on having this conversation, so forgive me if I feel if I'm unprepared.
No, you're doing fine.
So the contract as written says that if next year we don't budget for it, we could terminate the contract.
I don't think that's how the contract is written. I think that's what the law says.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with that, Tim. I'm ready to vote.
All right. Well, there is a motion on the table unless you got anything else you want to add.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, there is a motion on the table to approve the bid submitted from Xerox in the amount of $1,284.74 per month for 60 months. I'll go ahead and call for the bid. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Nay. Sorry.
Okay, which one
I'm
was?
nay.
You're a nay?
I-
Danielle? You're,
He was an aye, show of hands.
okay, let's do a show of hands here. Okay, all those in favor, aye. All those opposed? 3-3.
I would make a motion that we come back at the next meeting and get us the information of what it would cost, or if we can carry over the existing lease to the end of the year, so we can at least have some more information on the technology piece of this and how those play together.
Okay, we have a
I'd
motion
second.
by Board Member Schwartz, second by Board Member Bickle. And Sarah, you got that motion down, as Greg had it? Okay. Any discussion? All those in,
Hold on, I would just add that if we could get shorter lease, I mean, if we can't extend it through the year, can we get a shorter lease instead? What's the
We'll
cost
check on
differential
options
on that?
and see
So
where
just
we
all
go.
the things we've kind of talked about tonight.
okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. On to item C, curriculum guide revisions for Hayes High School. Mr. Straub, do you want to, you're ready up here.
Yes, in summary, the changes that we're recommending the board vote on tonight is basically the updated policy with regard to the Kansas Board of Regents requirements for our students wanting to attend any of the state colleges, community colleges, or technical colleges. The NCAA Clearinghouse has adjusted some of their grade point averages calculated in with SAT and ACT scores. We will shorten that up in the final revision so it doesn't take up so much space. Dropping a couple courses in art, 2D and 3D. We haven't offered those at Hayes High since we began reducing staff a few years ago and have no intention of offering those this next year. We've reworded to align in the Language Arts Department, Kansas College and Career Readiness Standards on pages 36 through 41. In the Foreign Language Department, when we had a resignation, or actually a reduction in force in foreign language, we shuffled staff around and are actually doing Latin 1 through Edgenuity, which is the computer-based program that we use at the Learning Center of Ellis County. We put in the language to represent that change. Current technology, we've added the production woodworking 3, which is a capstone class for that career pathway. Page 57 and 59, what I shared with the board last week during the work session, this is probably, maybe it sounds a little unusual, but it's really not that uncommon in the larger school districts. The most difficult students to schedule in almost any high school would be those students who become very, very active in a specific area, whether it's CTE, science, but especially music. What we're proposing is, right now, USD489 requires 2 health and PE credits. One half credit has to be health, the other can be health related, and they have to take an activity class. We would not award a half credit for students who successfully complete marching band 4 consecutive years, or 4 years that they're with us. We would simply waive 0.5 credit for PE. It's good for kids. We've seen other districts. I've had some experience with other districts doing that. And right now, to meet that need, many times we're having to develop programs for those students in the summer. They'll do walking across Kansas programs and things of the sort. We make them jump to that hoop. We think that this is a good thing for those students. Science, we realigned our freshman science class from physics to integrated science, which really focuses more on physical science, earth science, and astronomy. And finally, the Learning Center has many, many course additions that we've listed in the course guide as well. Those are the main changes going into the 2015-2016 school year.
Is the drop-off of physics because of the science standards, or what caused that shift?
Next generation science standards have really pushed that. It's really the process based. What can a kid do instead of what can they know? And they really focus, at least with the level that we plan to teach this, on that earth science, astronomy, and physical science.
Okay.
Less than physics. Physics will be the more advanced courses. But it really has been pushed by the next generation science standards. Yes.
So did they get rid of wasn't there an AP physics test?
No, we still have the AP physics. That would be for seniors. The physics has been our introductory science course with the kids.
Okay.
Any questions?
think you may answer them all at the work session.
I have one question. What is the possibilities we could not print any copies of this book?
You had to know that was coming.
You know, my copies, I use the highlighter in Adobe Acrobat Professional. You know, we really have reduced copies of this book a lot. I just really want you to know that what we see and what we print is for those parents and kids to be able to sit there and work together. We have a very good turnout for 8th grade parent night and 8th grade visitation. And we don't, in the old days, Greg, when we had the 250 or 60, we would only print 2 per family, and it was probably pretty ridiculous. I know that you may see it unnecessary now, but I think we're in transition. I think more and more kids, especially with the iPads, we save it as a PDF. Eventually, they'll start making their notes on the iPad. I really believe that. The assignments that you're talking about, Lance, those things can be through education programs. Just they can do their work on the iPad, they can submit it, and be graded on the iPad. It's a transition to being more paperless. I know that we have reduced paper a lot in this district, but I think we can still do that.
I'm going to press you because I don't think you answered that question.
I said not very good.
He will greatly reduce the number of copies.
We will greatly reduce. I think we have, and we'll continue to do that. We don't really give them out to the teachers anymore.
I'm just-
Put them on the kids. Even like our student handbook, Greg, we don't print.
I understand. I guess my thing is
Network folder, we email it to them. We're doing many of those.
if we tell parents at orientation or wherever you're going to hand these out to them that, look, we're in budget cuts, and we're looking to save money wherever we can, and paper costs money, and we really don't want to pay money to give you a book that you're going to throw away in a week or 2 weeks, you know, you can figure out how to, you can go into Adobe, which you can get for free, and put comments next to it, just like you would write, which is cumbersome, but if that's what we needed, or they can just take a sheet of paper and write down their notes on it. But to me, it just seems that we're wasting resources there that we don't need to. So that's my piece on it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Marty. Thanks, Mr. Straub. Yes, we will need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the curriculum guide revisions for high school presented by Marty Straub.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Patterson, a second by Board Member Rankin. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. On to item D, Certified Administrator Policy Revisions. Dean, do you want to discuss those?
Yes, we had talked about this at the last meeting, and I had made the comment that this was common. Well, looking at language in other districts, the language that we have doesn't, I didn't find it in any other one. I didn't look at the whole state, obviously. Talked to KASB. This is the language that they're suggesting. So the recommendation is to, I think you guys have the striked out version there on your laptop or computer, and to make it read as KASB suggests that administrators informed on or before the third Friday in May as teacher contracts everything. And again, I think it's my job to make sure that anyone knows where they stand in February, March, those things, so there's not an issue with that. But that's the, and then also under recruitment, I suggest we strike the and head coaching positions. That happens, but I don't know why. I mean, we need it in there, so.
I would make a motion to accept the proposed changes to the Certified Administrator Policy Revisions, CG,
Yeah.
as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Schwartz.
Second.
Second by Board Member Lang. Any discussion?
Dina, I suspect that any notices that, well, not even notices, but performance-based issues or even financial-based decisions, you're going to make those much sooner than March.
Yes.
Performance, especially financial, maybe could be different, but performance-based issues, that you'll be notifying those people much earlier than.
Correct. It shouldn't be a surprise, I mean, you know, when things come up, and I, again, just like we do the same thing with teaching staff, I mean, we owe people to let them know as soon as we can, so, yeah. And I know principals are concerned with the language change, no doubt about it, but again, I think, I don't know of a superintendent that doesn't feel the same about notifying people when they need to know early and not wait till the very end. But I'm not saying it would never happen, but I understand their concern that this is the recommendation.
Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. On to item 11, discussion by board members and agenda request. I would make an agenda request to put the approval of the audit report on for January.
I'm ready to
Do we know?
Yeah.
Okay. Scratch that agenda request. We'll go ahead and vote on it now.
I'll make a motion to approve the Adams Brown Barron and Ball audit report as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Bickle, second by Board Member Rankin to approve the Adams Brown Barron and Ball report as presented tonight. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Any discussion by board members? Other agenda requests?
Have a Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Happy holiday.
Nope. Seeing there's no need,
First semester.
no need for executive session, meeting is adjourned.
And it's a record.
You just feel like you go home at this time?
Wow. Not your 20 minutes, Marty. Not the 20 minutes you anticipated, but still pretty
How do you know the
Bill, you want to stick around?
I want to sit around and chit chat.
Bill, you want to stick around, so it could be like.
I didn't mean to shoo you out of that meeting.
Seems a little early.
But we had went into our time, and you had to be out of that room.
No.
Because
I didn't even
That's
think about
why,
it. That's okay.
that's why I said, you got to go.
I understand. Or I could keep talking and have it go. I understand. You guys ready to say